All right, so this is the verify testing product UX sync for, I almost said November. It's March 16th, 2021. I don't know why I'm thinking it's November.
Whoa.
Better have some more coffee this morning. All right. So let's jump into the follow-up issues. I needed to update the code quality MR diff with the finalized designs, this actual inline where we paint the MR diff, which I did. I added a link to the Figma design as well. Hi, Anna, it looks like you added a link to the design issue just so everything is all linked together on the GitLab side, which is great.
Yeah, I was a bit confused. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was jumping to the next topic, so.
Yeah, I was a bit confused because we have, I think, 3 issues that are on the same theme. And when I looked at it at the this one that you linked, I was, okay, which one is the source of truth? Because we have the implementation of the MVC and we have another one and the design issue. So I wanted to ask you, what you normally do is do you just refer to the design issue in your implementation item, or do you actually copy all the design criteria and paste in the issue description? That's just a
what I've
question.
been doing, I'm going to share my screen. What I've been doing is what I did, where in the proposal, which I didn't do here, I will, is this the right one? Yeah. Oh yeah, in the further details or in the proposal, I'll say acceptance criteria can be seen here around the design. Here's a link to the prototype, and then the designs are included below to try to dog food as much as we can and say, this is the design, that is the single source of truth. This issue is the single source of truth for implementation for whichever front end developer picks it up. So they're not bouncing back and forth between any issues. And for that same reason, I should probably pull over any acceptance criteria for front end out of that back over to here. So it is the single source of truth. Okay. So I will do that today as another follow-up to make sure that that's all clear, since we'll probably start refining these 14.1 issues sooner than later.
That sounds good. That clarifies. I think that's my confusion was what you were considering the source of truth there, because in my acceptance criteria, I talk about like spacing, sizes, and I think in these cases where there's some specific changes for front end, it's good to refer to what we write in the issue and not the mockups, because I honestly don't do pixel perfect prototypes. So if we can, continue doing that, pulling the information in to the source of truth for the implementation item, that would be great. So that clarifies my question. Thanks.
So I added that as an action item for myself. All right, the other follow-up was I did do a horrible sketch, which started as a sketch from my iPad and turned into, I just changed it all with preview and text and boxes, which is all I really wanted to do anyway, for that code quality or that quality dashboard MVC. Yeah, it's not good. Where it would live, I think it's under analytics. If it's at the project level, it'll probably be analytics. And I think we should talk about a new subheading there of quality. And we can say analytics quality, we can pull test coverage into that. This can live there as maybe that first click. And it would give you kind of, this is your overview of quality as we see it. And eventually it can morph into something that's closer to that design vision that Juan and I put together that has all the different tabs on it, where you can then drill into the reports from there. That would be our kind of top level. And we'll probably want to simplify that so it's not so much going on. And it's just, you can start to drill down into different signals, but you have a very clear one at the top of this is the current state, this is the direction it's heading. Click here to get more detail.
And would this be at the project or group level at this point, or both?
The initial version of this, I think, would be at the project level. So it'll still be an ultimate feature. Okay. And then we can level up from there and say we're also going to implement this at the group level as an ultimate feature.
Okay. And then my last question was around the data that we want to display. I saw that you added here, I think you have like 3 different types of metrics that you want to display. Do we have that in the backend? easily?
We have the test coverage data today.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we can pull the historical test coverage data for the, let me just click in and share. So we have this test coverage number for the current. Yeah, we have the historical because that's what we track. And then this click to see full report would take you into that test coverage report. The tests run, we don't, I believe, have historical data for it. But we could start with even, this is the current state. So on the latest pipeline for the default branch, here's how many tests passed, here's how many tests were skipped, et cetera, and we can build a database table that tracks that. Same thing with code quality violations. And there's an epic underneath this that starts to sketch out, because that'll be the next one that we go do, is here's your code quality violations, how many you have currently, and how that has changed over time. We'll need to instrument that. But I think that we can even start without the historical and say, here's what quality looks like for your project. We can really take an iterative approach to this and start with just 3 numbers. And you might have historical data for the test coverage, and then we'll build out the historical data for the rest. And I think it'd be an interesting experiment for us to have that click for details, and it takes you into not a great page, or even just here's the, for like the code quality, is there a view that we can give you of just the code quality tab and see how many people are clicking over to inform what we should go build next. So some data for this one, no data or minimal data for these two, but we can iterate into that data.
Sounds good. And when you display these metrics, are they, because I know that your prototype is very low level in fidelity, but is this like last 24 hours, last 30 days, last deployment? What are we seeing on this view?
This would be the latest for your default branch. So if you're working off of main, last time pipeline ran for main, this is the test coverage. This is how many, like the test execution for it, and this is the code quality for it. So we assume that, and this would be contingent on user having a pipeline that is generating that data. So we may need to include instruction or something about, you can schedule a pipeline that does this, even if it's not part of a deployment, because you don't want to wait for this for a deployment, but you can do it after the deployment. There's some other nuance around that of what the last pipeline is that ran, but.
Well, that's good for me, because also when I think about an empty state, I need to understand what we want users to do from there. If they don't have anything like what you said set up, here's how do you get started with the setting up all your.
Yeah, and we can, I mean, that would be really interesting. I gave you just completely a happy path that this data exists, there's historical data, everything is built. But as we iterate into that, and well, what if you don't run the code quality job? Well, here's how we could include a link to the documentation of how to set it up or something.
Yeah. Helping users, always. And I think it's interesting to always connect them through the flow. That's one of the issues right now with the product as a whole, is that, the workflows are siloed in some areas of the product. So that's a good call out. Coolio. And heads up, I think if you're into prototyping, I think you should get Figma or Balsamiq access request. We have the tools, and we have other PMs using, and you can have the prototype. So
I will put an access request in then for Balsamiq, because I've used that one before.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure it's changed enough that Figma I would be just as used to that as I would with Balsamiq.
Yeah. So. Figma, I'm not going to get into details, but I get tired when I have to prototype something in Figma, because it's so detailed. And Balsamiq now, it's all in the cloud. So it's quite easy to just open the browser and prototype. So
nice.
Awesome.
And I thought about going down the rabbit hole of finding a tool that I could do it with. And I was like, no, just get on the iPad and sketch it real quick. And it's just so sloppy. Like, it won't snap lines in the tool that I use. That's all I wanted was squares.
Anyway, used to do it in a Google Doc for me, table, and then here's what I want to see in the dashboard.
That's what I should have fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I should have done.
And this one, do we have this in my Epic yet? Let's see. It's in the backlog, but we don't have a mouse on for this item yet. Da, da, da. I don't think so. Huh? As in, I know that it's coming next, but I just want to see.
Yeah,
oh,
we didn't.
it's
I didn't
Q3.
put this into.
Hmm.
We didn't put this one into your Epic yet.
Yeah. I just have an idea because since we talked about my transition, I'm like, okay, do I need to prioritize this now? How I want to allocate my time.
Let's see. This is what we have coming up next for you. The visual indicator that an MR should be blocked per the coverage config. Sorry, I miswrote that. I'm gonna fix that real quick. That the MR should be blocked.
Should be blocked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the so that's the
With the button.
design item for you in 1311 for testing.
Yeah.
And then it looks like I need to talk with Ricky and see where we're at with I know Scott's going to be doing some work for Runner that would slow down our need for front end design.
Mm-hmm.
But then depending on the plus 10% investment, we may get some back end investment sooner than later. So having some things that Miranda and Scott in his capacity could quickly work on, that might push up some of the stuff that we just looked at. Because that would be the next highest priority for us, is that code quality dashboard.
Yeah. And it's a much larger UX effort, as in we're going to need, of course, as long as we don't really have all the data in the back end to pull and show in UI, then the design itself, it's quite simple. But yeah, we just have to see how we're going to prioritize that in the menu, in the navigation, how we're displaying this to users, what components we're using. So my experience working with analytics and working with this type of dashboards in our product, it's the process, it gets lower when we have to align with other people. It's not necessarily putting a proposal out there. Just so a heads up to you. But yeah, that's life. We have to do that anyway. And if we need to validate, but I don't think we're going to add anything too complex with the MVC in terms of bringing this to have a solution validation that needs to be scheduled.
Anything else you want to talk through on what you're working on this week?
No, this is a shorter week, so I'm powering through these issues. We have family and friends on Friday. So that's it for me.
I'm shifting mine to next Friday to match up with my daughter's day off of school. So if you need anything, I'll have a good chunk of time on Friday that I can power through stuff. Cool. Do you want to talk through transition stuff?
Yes, I do. So I added a heads up here. You know, I'm transitioning fully to the manager product design role, but I'm still going to be.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm still going to be a designer for testing and running until we backfill the position, till we hire someone for the 2-stage groups. And just to give you also another heads up, my priorities right now are into completing the transition. So all the trainings and the things that the organization requires from me the next 2 weeks, and also in hiring a new designer. So Valerie, let me see if someone replied to my message, not yet. So Valerie is off this week. So I don't think we're going to move forward with opening the request or opening the vacancy this week. But I wanted to touch base with you about some requirements for this role. And I'm not sure, we can record this, but then I'll just put this video as in private, just in case. Yeah. And then to add some questions here, I think it would be important to hear from you and Darren on what you're looking for, type of experience in testing, type of experience in research for this candidate. So What are you looking
Looking
for?
for someone who
designer?
can start soon.
Okay,
No,
that's
it's
important.
most important that we get the right candidate in.
Mm-hmm.
As far as past experience, I don't think testing experience is super important,
Mm-hmm.
but experience with the developer persona and building data views. I think because of the work that Darren and I are going to be doing at the like management dashboard level over the next year,
Mm-hmm.
having some experience there is going to be really, really helpful for us
Mm-hmm.
in making sure that that UX is tight in the first iterations.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you like specifically screen for? I mean, I trust that you're going to find a good candidate, someone who matches up with the experience that traditionally, not traditionally, but that we look for for GitLab designers, and we get a good person in.
Yeah, I still have to
Yeah, I
align
don't
with
think there's
Valerie.
any.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was working back up through the list. The experience, I think, building those dashboards. I think that somebody with that who has some sort of experience there of building data views for that director persona is going to be great, especially if they can mix it with I've worked in workflows for developers or for DevOps teams. So I know that that's a very hard ask. If I was preferencing, I would preference for someone who's built those data views. I think that we have enough experience and we can empathize with the developer and the DevOps engineer persona enough that we'll be able to help with this is what that workflow is like. This is, we can talk through this. We can dog food these things internally really easily and get that feedback. It's going to be harder to empathize and get research for the director persona, I think.
I have to confirm with Valerie, but I believe we're going to aim at the senior product designer, especially because it will still be the person still be required to work with you and Darren, so support two different teams. So hopefully, from my experience and also seeing the type of candidates that we usually get people that have some sort of experience building dev tools. So we can look into that. And I also added here, what experience in UX research do you expect from this person? I have my opinions, but I would like to hear from you. How do you see, the new designer fitting in this role with you in the team?
I mean, someone who isn't afraid to go talk to customers would be great. Not that we've ever had that problem, but I don't think that. I mean, for the most part, we've taken the lead on the research, and it's fine to continue going down that route. A partner there would be great, but knowing that they're splitting time between teams, their most important role is to do the design part and make sure that we have, great interaction and great experience for the customer, more so than they're doing the research. I think if we can feed them the research and they can help distill insights, great. That's a bonus.
Awesome. I think that clarifies. I still have the same, I have a document. I'm not sure if you have access to it. Let's see. No, not the owner. That we created to backfill Juan's position last year. I think a lot of it we can still reuse as in terms of requirements. But once I have this is going to be an issue with the hiring people. And once we have that, I'll ping you and Darren to give feedback to see if everything's in line, and we can kick off the hiring.
Awesome.
I'm assuming next week, but I'll keep you posted.
Great.
Awesome.
That sounds great.
And that's it for me. That was my last item.
All right. I didn't have anything I wanted to talk about. My weekly priorities. What are my priorities this week? I should look at these.
Mine.
I'm trying to get ahead on some usage ping definitions to help out the data team or the product intelligence team. I have to merge my performance indicator update. That's a couple of weeks out, but I can merge that because we won't have March data yet by the time it happens. And then finishing up all the release related stuff across the 3 releases. 1310 release posts have all merged. I don't know that I pinged you on very many of those. There's the new, it's optional, but it's recommended to have designer review. I'm happy to tag you and actually assign you as a reviewer if you want to look at those for 1311. We had some usability improvements and we rolled all of them up into one secondary item. Did that before the new introduction of usability improvements as its own section, like performance improvements are. So going forward, if something isn't quite enough for a secondary post on its own and it's not a new feature, we'll just list it in that usability area.
Awesome. That's great.
So I'll tag you on 1311 stuff as it comes out at the end of next month or the middle of next month. And if you have time to review, great. But if you don't, no worries. I know you have a lot on your plate right now.
Yeah, I mean, I usually review these, or used to review this with Jackie, but for me, it's really about time. But even if I don't reply, I'll check the ping later on and I'll read through. I think it's always easier to see in the diff and really see what has changed in the page, so we don't have to read all the information if you're changing a category page or something like that. So please ping me. If I don't reply, don't block it because of me.
Cool. Awesome. Do you want to switch recordings and I'll record the kickoff so we can get it uploaded?
Yes. So we joined the other room, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll see you there in just a minute.
Yeah.